Further to the previous videos, which provided a comprehensive breakdown of our contract with Gary Kerr, the huge issues with our roof, the plumbing, and the electrics in a great deal of detail, this video will very briefly summarise a range of additional issues with our project, as well as recapping many of the issues already catalogued in the previous videos. As previously mentioned in video 2, Gary Kerr left our roof badly unfinished for many weeks, despite being adamant that it was watertight. This caused huge issues to our property, which we are still struggling with. Our kitchen ceiling was repeatedly water stained over the course of several weeks. When it rained badly, water would start to pour through the light sockets in the kitchen downstairs. This would then render the light switches completely inoperable for a period of a couple of weeks at a time while they dried out. This happened on 3 occasions. Gary's eventual attempt to render our roof properly watertight in early August was completely ineffective, with tiles being left out of place and improper pieces being used to seal the joins between capping boards, which were not to the correct specification. On inspecting the roof closely, it became clear that Gary had used bathroom silicone sealant to try and seal some of the capping boards. The capping boards that he had fitted were cosmetic PVC capping boards, were not regulation, and were also the wrong size for the width of the wall that they were capping, and so would regularly lift up during high winds. Even after he had returned to supposedly finish the job in August, there were still large gaps that were left unsealed on the joints between the PVC capping boards and the wall. This facilitated further water ingress. Gutters were left unfinished with water pouring down the side of our fascia. Indoor plasterboard screws had been used to secure the outdoor PVC capping. No downpipes had been fitted at all, meaning that water just poured freely from the side of our building when it rained. We continued to experience repeated flooding up until the end of October, when we eventually contracted someone else to solve the problem, as Gary had failed to respond on a number of occasions. Moving on to the plumbing, it turns out that Gary had fitted our shower over a cavity with absolutely no support underneath whatsoever. This caused the shower to eventually crack and shower water to pour through our kitchen light, flooding it for the umpteenth time. While fixing the shower upstairs, we also discovered that Gary had not fitted the upstairs toilet properly at all. He had not screwed it to the floor, and the waste was improperly fitted, meaning that we had been leaking sewage underneath the floor for a period of about 3 months. This required all the floorboards to be replaced. When installing the bath early on, Gary managed to screw holes right through the bath while trying to fix the feet. Underneath the sink, Gary had used an assortment of second-hand plumbing parts to manufacture a very convoluted drainage system. He'd also improperly fitted the overflow to the tap, meaning that whenever the sink was filled completely, it leaked quite catastrophically. His solution to this was to simply fill the hole with silicone, meaning that the overflow no longer worked. The underfloor plumbing beneath the downstairs bathroom and kitchen was a tangled mess of unsupported and uninsulated pipes. One particular pipe was merely propped up precariously by a piece of MDF. For the waste for the downstairs toilet, Gary had fitted together 2 mismatched pieces of waste pipe and had tried to secure them by simply tying a plug around them. None of the radiators in the new part of the extension were connected at all. Gary had damaged the mains shut-off valve, and so there was no way of us turning off the mains water if we ever sprung a leak. Thankfully, this didn't happen. In the attic, the pipes were routed up through the rafters for some reason. They were left uninsulated and were bent at rather extreme angles at the joints. Outside the property, Gary had not built steps from our back door. When we discussed how to do this, he suggested that we simply pour a concrete base and build the steps above that. He had not checked the drawings and so did not realise that there was a drainage pipe that ran beneath that and that a lintel would be required. I had to talk him out of simply going ahead and pouring the concrete. Large drainage pipes were just left sticking out of the ground. The back door harrowing was left unfinished, And all of the windows that he had fitted were left completely unsealed, in some cases with really quite large gaps, which then facilitated water ingress. One of these windows Gary had cracked on installation. Moving back inside, no fire alarms were fitted at all anywhere in the new extension, even though this was on the architect's diagrams. In the downstairs bathroom, none of the plastering was finished. A light switch was fitted inside the bathroom, which is against regulations, and the shelving unit behind the toilet was improperly fitted. Behind this shelving unit, Gary had stuffed a range of contractor waste. Some of this was covered in a tar substance, which then immediately stained our floor. The sink that Gary had fixed in place to the unit was held in place with a couple of screws that were screwed directly through the very weak plastic splashboard, rather than being properly fitted to the wooden frame. This was therefore not secure at all. On inspecting the frame closer, it became clear very quickly that it was far from solid. Gary had in fact fixed it to the wall using bathroom silicone sealant, his favourite sort of adhesive. It was therefore already starting to pull away from the wall under the weight of the sink. Gary had of course not finished the bathroom ceiling, and the section of the ceiling that he had finished he had damaged quite badly, meaning that we had to install trim separately to try and cover up his mistakes. Back in the kitchen there were several issues. Gary had of course not fitted the extractor fans, neither had he in either of the bathrooms, but concerningly, our kitchen cabinet was starting to tear away from the wall. He had of course not fitted it correctly. Finally, the one problem that we have not yet managed to get on top of under our own power is mould. It is absolutely everywhere, thanks to the constant water ingress caused by Mr. Gary Kerr's work.